Hello everyone, welcome back to Clinical Psychology Community UK. My name is Holly. I am currently an NHS assistant psychologist. It is a new month, it is a new week, therefore we are doing a 5 top tips video. And today we're looking at managing rejection. I know this sounds really scary, but it's something we're probably all going to have to deal with at some point in our lives and particularly in our careers as aspiring psychologists. So today, I'm going to cover some top tips on that. Don't forget to follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and on YouTube. You can subscribe on there. Okay, so let's look at what we're going to do today. Well, firstly, I'm going to give you a little bit of background about clinical psychology in the UK. And the reason for that is so it kind of sets the scene as, to help you understand what rejection is and how common it is when you are pursuing clinical psychology. I'm going to talk to you a little bit about my journey, just so you kind of understand a little bit. And hopefully, if you're watching this and you're a bit nervous or really struggling to manage rejection, I can help you with that because I faced a lot of it and had to overcome it. And then we're going to go through the 5 top tips, and I'm going to give you some helpful resources as well and signpost you to areas of support. Let's go straight into it. Clinical psychology in the UK. All right, so it is highly competitive. You will experience rejection, soz. You will at some point experience rejection. It could be your first application. It could be just one application that you receive rejection from. But you will experience it. It's likely to happen. All right. To train as a clinical psychologist in the UK, these are some of the requirements. All right. And they vary from uni to uni, but these are the requirements. You need to have an undergraduate psychology degree that's BPS accredited with a high 2-1 or a first generally. You absolutely can get into the doctorate if you have a 2-2 or a low 2-1, but more than likely from people that I've spoken to, you need to have a master's as well to show that you can do postgraduate research and things like that. That's generally what to do. The other route is to do an unrelated undergraduate degree or a non-BPS accredited psychology degree. And then you would do a BPS accredited master's. So you have to have some form of degree, whether it's undergraduate or a master's that's BPS accredited. And that's so you have graduate basis for chartership. So you have the sort of foundations there to be able to learn more to become a chartered psychologist. Most unis want you to have between 6 months to a year at least of relevant experience. Some courses don't specify the amount of experience that you need. Some do. It really depends. And for more information on this, I'd look at Clearinghouse. I'll link that down in the description. So that has all the different courses, all of their entry requirements, all of the important dates on there to look at. So that's definitely the best place to go, but I'll link it down below. Another requirement is the ability to reflect on the experience. So in my journey, reflection has been huge in the last year. It's really helped me bring together pieces of the puzzle to kind of form a picture that I understand. Whereas before I kind of had lots of knowledge from uni and I didn't really have any experience. And even if I did, I just didn't have the time or the resources to be able to connect the two together and make it make sense. I just had loads of random puzzle pieces I couldn't fit together. And with the reflection and clinical supervision, I've been able to kind of put those together a bit. So for me, reflection is the most important. People can get on. I've got 5 years worth of experience, but people can get on with a year's worth of relevant experience if they've done that reflection and supervision work. It can absolutely happen. And to train as a clinical psychologist, you will therefore complete the 3-year funded training program. You can self-fund. There are some universities, I think there's 8 or 10 that accept self-funded candidates, but you still have to go through, all of the selection stuff, the interviews, and that's almost more competitive, I think, and it's expensive. It's about 22 grand a year, and that's not including living expenses, so it's very expensive. The majority of people that are applying for the NHS funded places. So on Clearinghouse, it will have all of the different courses that are available, different universities, and you will be able to see on there what their requirements are and things like that. the thing is that the success rate is only about 15%, 1-5, which means 85% of applicants to the doctorate will be rejected, or will be, the applications will be unsuccessful. So that's, just bear that in mind, all right? Even though people can get on first time, it absolutely can happen. So a little bit more about clinical psychology in the UK. Clinical psychologists are employed in the NHS generally. Absolutely, people go into private practice. But one of the reasons it's so competitive is that the NHS doesn't want to spend loads and loads of money training someone up to doctorate standard for them to go into private practice. So in the NHS, while you're training, you are on a band 6, which is sort of professional registration level. So like therapists will be on a band 6 generally. Advanced practitioners might be on a band 6, that sort of thing. Band 7 when you're newly qualified, and then band 8, 8A, 8B when you're experienced, or you're a consultant, that sort of thing. And the NHS only pays for 2 types of doctorates, okay, excluding medicine, obviously, because that's a whole different situation. I can't remember what the other one is, but one of them is clinical psychologists. Okay, they only train 2 professions up to doctorate standard, and one of them is clinical psychologists. So you can imagine that those places are like gold dust because they're NHS funded. I mean, that doesn't happen anywhere else. So that's just hopefully given you a bit more of an idea of how competitive it is. And CPs tend to take leadership roles. They tend to take them earlier on in their careers than other professionals. So, for example, like a nurse might take 10 years to get to like a leadership position, a senior management position, and a psychologist might take 5 years because of the different levels of training that they have. But essentially, that's what clinical psychology looks like in the UK. I can only speak to that because it's the only experience I have. But if you are applying internationally, I definitely look at the Clearinghouse website because that'll have all the information. All the different courses will have pages that you can look at as well. Okay, let's move on a little bit to my journey then. So if you're watching this and you're thinking, oh, I'm interested in becoming a clinical psychologist, or, oh, I've been on my journey a few years now, don't worry, there's something in this for you. So in terms of my education, I have an undergraduate psychology degree that's BPS accredited, and I graduated in 2015. I have a master's in psychology, and I graduated in 2016 from that one. In terms of experience, I've got a year as an NHS support worker. That was when I first sort of graduated from my master's. And I've got about a year, just under, of a recovery worker in substance misuse, which is like a caseworker. Then I've got about 18 months as a senior recovery worker in substance misuse, so sort of team leader. And then I've got just over a year of being an NHS assistant psychologist. And alongside this, I've applied to the doctorate 6 times. I'm not ashamed to say that. It's really competitive. And for a long time, I think I was so nervous to say, oh, I've applied 4 times or whatever. Well, actually now I almost see it as a badge of honour. I've applied 6 times. I'm very, very keen. So don't worry. If you're watching this thinking, oh my God, I don't want to apply 6 times. I'm doing this so hopefully you won't have to, because you can learn some of the tips and tricks that I've picked up along my way that I wish I'd known earlier. So hopefully that'll help a bit. Now I'm going to move on to the 5 top tips. All right, these are just my top tips. You may have your own ways of managing stuff, managing rejection, managing anxiety and things like that. And that's fine. That's great. These are just the ways that have worked for me. So firstly is acceptance. Okay. You are going to experience rejection if you are aiming to become a clinical psychologist. It's going to happen, as I've said. The only thing that you can change is how you respond to that rejection. Absolutely, you can work hard to learn everything you can and develop in the right way and reflect on things. Absolutely, you can do that. But that rejection still might come. You could be the really close second choice for a job, which has happened to me, I don't know, 15 times probably in my career. Yeah, I think I've been told I was second choice, really, really close, about 15 times out of maybe 50 interviews and maybe well over 400 or 500 applications for assistant jobs. Oh, it's a load of fun, isn't it? But the thing that I can change in that is how I respond to that rejection, and thinking about the wording. So what I'd encourage you to do, if you don't know already, is to look into radical acceptance, which is kind of a concept from DBT. Marsha Linehan is the person to look up for that. What you can do is sort of create acceptance statements or affirmations that you can say to yourself every day. And this is a really common one. Grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change. That's known as the serenity prayer or serenity statement, and it's used in Alcoholics Anonymous, AA, NA, loads of those sorts of peer support groups. And it actually helps me because, yes, this rejection is really frustrating and difficult, but actually, it's not going to change it. The fact that I feel sad about it, I'm still not going to have been successful in getting the job or getting onto the doctorate. What I can change is the way I feel about it and the way I think about it. And one of the things that can help you with that is to watch your language. Okay. And I've used the word rejection a lot because I think that's a very common word that we use. So words like rejected are associated with other words like failure. Okay, and I think our brains make those sorts of associations. These words make it really easy for us to judge ourselves. I was rejected from that job, therefore I'm a failure. And actually what we need to be doing is thinking about things in a non-judgmental way. I would encourage you to start by noticing words that come to mind when you think about previous unsuccessful applications. For a really long time, this time last year, So last year I interviewed for one of the courses, and I thought the interview went pretty well. And I found out I wasn't shortlisted. I wasn't put on the reserve list for the doctorate. And I got my feedback. And initially I was like, oh, I failed. I'm useless. I'm never going to do it. I can't do this anymore. I'm getting too old to keep applying. And actually, all of those words just made me realize that I was internalizing stuff and feeling rubbish about it, and it wasn't helpful. So I started by noticing the words that came to my mind. So failure was definitely one, rejected, unsuccessful, useless, those sorts of words came to mind. And then when you see a list of words that you use to describe yourself, it's not good because you'd never use those words to describe someone else, and yet you're using them against yourself. So start by noticing the words and maybe jotting them down, and it might help you. Remember that your application may have been unsuccessful, but that does not make you unsuccessful. That's such an important thing. Which kind of leads me on to tip number 3, which is reframing and self-compassion. Okay, so what I mean is by reframing is to just think about the situation differently. Like that quote before. Remember, your application might have been unsuccessful. That does not mean you are unsuccessful. It just means that application was, and self-compassion. So trying to be kind to yourself. This is really hard. It's a really hard career to follow. Paved, punctuated by so much rejection. And yes, you need to have quite a lot of resilience to get through that, but you also need to be able to be kind to yourself. If you notice yourself thinking, I'm not good enough because I keep getting rejected, you can try and reframe it. Think of an alternative thought to challenge this. I am good enough and I will achieve my goals one day. And also when you're reframing, try and bring in the fact that this field is stupidly competitive. Some amount of luck is really, really needed. For me, when I interviewed, like I said, like 50 times for AP jobs at least, and I was offered one. And on that day, on the interview day, I was actually really upbeat. And I sort of said to myself, it doesn't matter. This is like my 50th interview. If it goes well, great. If it doesn't, then it doesn't really matter because I can just carry on doing as I am. So it might have been some luck that actually maybe I was the most upbeat person that day. Maybe the other people I was interviewing against, maybe they had really bad days. Maybe they had some family stuff going on them and they didn't perform as well in an interview. I think there is a massive amount of luck that's needed. What you've got to remember is that virtually everyone shortlisted for a job, for the doctorate, are good enough. Everyone is good enough. There's just so many people. You might have 50 applicants or 100 applicants for one job. And actually everyone's fairly equal. So remember that, you know, it's probably due to you not having a good amount of luck as well. It's nothing to do with you as a person. You know, and if the amount of unsuccessful applications is getting to you, take a break and do something you enjoy. I absolutely advise this. Listen to your body and mind. What do they need? You know, when I didn't get into the doctorate last year, I was really low because it was my 5th time, and I thought, oh, this will be it. And I started to plan my life. And actually I realized that I was tired all the time. I wasn't sleeping very well. I just needed to take some time not thinking about the doctorate for a few months, and luckily, you know, you can at that point, because you don't have to do the application for a good few months. So you can take some time to think about other stuff. And I think I'm stronger for it. So definitely try and be kind to yourself. That's a really important thing. Number 4 is, you know, lots of us working in mental health will understand the concept of this. Okay, anxiety and low mood management. Well, I think anxiety and low mood can go hand in hand with rejection, particularly sort of chronic rejection, if you like, when you've applied to 100 jobs and you've got rejections from all of them. That's massively hard to manage, and that is going to have an impact on you. So some of these techniques will hopefully help you. You can distract yourself. You know, do something else until you feel ready to work through your feelings and thoughts. You know, I wasn't ready to really process not getting onto the doctorate last year. It took me like a good 2-month break of just not thinking about it, and then going, right, I feel strong enough to maybe think about what I want to do and how the application and the interview went last time. I feel ready. Distract yourself, take some time. Breathing exercises can obviously help. It helps to calm some anxiety responses. And what I mean is, you know, when you get a rejection through, or, you know, your application was unsuccessful, or you get the phone call saying, sorry, you haven't been successful in getting this job after the interview, your anxiety can go up or your mood can drop. So these sorts of techniques are really good to sort of combat that. Breathing exercises helps to slow down our bodily response to anxiety, you know, slows our heart rate back down, helps calm us down. And the same with sort of grounding exercises, mindfulness and things like that. This is something I've recently started doing as well, is allocated worry time. All right, it helps to contain your anxiety. You can have a worry list and you think, okay, for an hour this week, that's going to be my worry time, when I'm allowing myself to really feel that worry. And if I worry outside of that, I'm going to write it down and I'm going to put a pin in it, and I'm going to remember that I can worry about that in my worry time. Worry. Sorry, I thought I said worry too much. I think that can really help contain that anxiety. And particularly, I think the same with low mood to some extent. But really for low mood, what works for me is activity scheduling, you know, making sure that I plan my week and I schedule time for some things that I like doing, particularly at the moment is walking. Now we've got gorgeous weather as well, it helps. And also use your support networks. You know, we've got friends and family that are there to support you. But I think what could be more valuable in that, because your friends and family love you and believe in you generally, so they think, oh, of course you're going to get on this year, of course you're going to get that job because you're brilliant. But they don't quite realize, actually, there's so many people that are exactly like me, have all the skills that I have and could be even better, you know. So maybe speaking to people on Facebook, or, you know, lots of the assistant groups, or the UK DClinPsy applicants reflective space. Use support networks around you of people that are going through the same thing. And my last tip is reflection. If anyone's ever seen any of my videos before, you know I'm absolutely obsessed with reflection. What I'd encourage you to do is reflect on applications and interviews and the feedback that you've received. Because that will, and remember to do that when you feel ready to, not just because you feel you should, when you feel ready to do that. And to be able to do that non-judgmentally and objectively. I would then use some reflective models and exercises as part of a reflective portfolio, because you will start to understand yourself more, which will help you manage that rejection even better, because you'll know yourself. You'll know yourself more. I know that when I experience rejection, I need to just cry about it for a bit, particularly if it's the doctorate. I had a massive cry, felt rubbish for a few days, and then I just, you know, ate whatever I wanted, did whatever I wanted because I deserved it and I'd worked hard for it. And And it was sad. I was sad. I felt the emotion. But the reflection helped me understand that time differently. I'd encourage you to keep a journal. I kept a journal during that time, actually. And when I read it back, I think, God, yeah, that was a really helpful outlet for me. And you can use a timeline. So I've done this before as part of training, actually, as part of a training thing that I did. So I looked at every job, I put it on a timeline, and I put, things that I'd learned, the rejection I'd experienced along the way, any significant points, which can be helpful in helping you understand how you've experienced rejection and managed it before, because you've got loads of techniques already. You will have loads of things. Even if you don't feel like it, you'll have loads of things. And this is where you'll learn about your relationship with rejection. Yeah. So I learned that my default for years was to internalize when things went wrong. If I don't know, if one of my friends misheard a question that I said, I'd be like, oh, that's my fault because I didn't say it clearly enough. Or if I didn't get onto the doctorate, I'd think, oh my God, I'm useless. It's completely my fault. I am rubbish. I'm never going to get anywhere. That's so unhelpful. It's so unhelpful now. I can almost laugh at it. But this is where you'll learn about your relationship with rejection. All right. And we all have different ways of relating to it. But start reflecting on it when you feel ready. Here are some helpful resources. So obviously on our YouTube channel, we have looked at keeping a reflective portfolio. There's some guidance there on different reflective models and reflective practice in clinical psychology. And there's loads more. There's absolutely loads on there. So have a little look because hopefully there'll be something for you that will help. There's also the UK DClinPsy applicants reflective space Facebook group. There's nearly 1,000 other doctorate applicants who will provide you with some support. If you're really struggling, or by the time the rejection emails come out, if you're really struggling, pop a message on there. We're supportive. It's a good thing to support each other. And there's a good website here from Relate, which I'll put in the description about dealing with rejection, particularly aimed at young adults, but I think it fits for any age group, really. Thank you so much for joining us today. I really appreciate it. And hopefully we will see you next week. Do not forget to subscribe and you'll get all of the updates and all of the extra stuff that we've got coming up. Thanks. Bye-bye.